So it's 4 o'clock. I guess we'll just give it a few minutes and let people start to join. There's about 15 people on the Zoom, and we'll get stuff going in just a few minutes. But thanks everyone for being here. I think this is a very important discussion, and we're looking forward to hearing what everyone brings as far as resources to help our small businesses. So thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I think Senator Buckner is also on. Senator Buckner, can you hear us? Can hear her.
I think I just upgraded her to panelist reference. You're also muted, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah, there she is. Okay, because she said she could only see me, she couldn't hear. Okay, thanks for upgrading her. We also have Dr. Malcolm Newton, he's from the African Chamber. He will be joining us as well. If you see him as a participant, if you can upgrade him as well.
Oh, he's coming.
Yeah, there he is. Okay, great. Thank you. Awesome.
I found the Zoom invite. I wasn't looking under House Dems. I was looking under Teresa. So,
oh, okay.
If you're looking under Teresa, there is no invite, but it comes from the House Dems. So.
Oh, okay, perfect. There you are, Kevin. Thank you for being
here. Hi, Kevin. I haven't seen you for a while, Kevin. Good to see you.
You too, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here, and apologies for the confusion. I know that some people were looking for the Zoom link under my email as well, so apologies for that.
Good to see you, Chance. I see that you're responding on the chat. Thank you for being here as well. Okay, at 4:05 we'll get started. It's 4:04. I just give it one more minute, and then others will be joining us and being here. I see my good friend Tulu from Sba Market, which is a great small business off of Alameda and roughly Alameda and Havana. I would say Sba Market doing really great business there. So welcome. Oh, and Commissioner Nancy Jackson is here too. So awesome. Thank you for being here. Okay, it looks like it's 4:05. I'm going to kick things off. Basically, my name is Representative Nikita Ricks from HD40. and it's such a pleasure to be here. Small businesses are something that I'm very passionate about, being a small business owner myself. I'm a mortgage broker and have helped many people with the dream of homeownership. And I'm just so thrilled to be serving in the Colorado State Legislature to help small businesses and all of the people from HD40 in the state of Colorado hopefully get back on a path to recovery after, as we go through this deadly pandemic. And small businesses are the life and breath of our economy. They employ so many people, especially in Aurora, where we come from, where a lot of mom and pop businesses, micro businesses are here. So many businesses have struggled during this pandemic without getting the aid that they needed and the support. So we are here hopefully today to bring some of the resources that are available in our community from the federal level, from the state level, from our county, and from the city. And so thanks everybody. We have assembled a great panel of speakers that will have only a few minutes to speak, but my hope is that each business will leave here with information that they can have a contact person to reach out to and follow up and get the resources that they need to weather this storm in this pandemic. So with that being said, I have Teresa Ho, who is here. She is my aide. She has helped me to bring together this beautiful town hall. And so Teresa, where are we going? What's first on our list?
Yeah, sorry, I'm trying to adjust the video settings so that we can show all the panelists at once, but I'll do that in a second. Right now, I think it'd be great if every panelist could take a moment to introduce themselves. Senator Buckner, would you like to start?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining this call today. I am so excited to see you, and I am State Senator Janet Buckner, Senate District 28 and HD 40 with the fabulous new State Representative Naquita Ricks is in my Senate district. So I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. And then we're also happy to have you here as well. And then Leslie, would you like to go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Leslie Hylton. I'm the Director of Government Affairs for the Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade, or OEDIT. OEDIT houses the Colorado SBDC network, Small Business Development Center network. We have 15 small business centers across the state, and we have some representatives from the SBA and SBDCs on who I will let get into more specifics. But a little bit later on, I will be sharing some information about implementation of small business legislation that the Colorado General Assembly passed in the last year or so.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Leslie. Okay, and then next, Francis, would you like to go next? And David as well?
Hi, Teresa. Thank you everyone for having us on. I'm Francis Padilla. I'm the District Director of the SBA Colorado District Office. And with me today, I have, and I'll point to him down in the corner.
Yes,
Go ahead and
yes.
introduce yourself.
I will. With her today is I'm David Benavides. I'm one of the lender relations specialists for the Colorado District Office of the SBA. I am also the project officer for the small business development centers here in Colorado as well.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Okay, Stephanie, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Stephanie Mufic. I'm the Business Services and Economic Engagement Supervisor with Arapahoe Douglas Works, and I work with Arapahoe County in the Community Resources Division. And specifically this year, with the pandemic, we have moved into administering business grants for Arapahoe County. So I'll be discussing that with you later, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Okay, Marcia, would you like to go next?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Marcia Mcgilly, and I'm the Executive Director of the Aurora-South Metro Small Business Development Center, and I'll be talking about our center as well as the network statewide.
Awesome. Thank you for being here. Kevin, would you like to go next?
Got to remember to unmute. Thank you. Kevin Hougen with the Aurora Chamber of Commerce, and appreciate the opportunity to visit with everybody. I see some old friends too, Malcolm. Good to see you and everyone too. So, but thank you for inviting me, and look forward to participating and giving some information out about what's happening.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you here as well. We also had Mike coming to join us, but I think he popped in quickly and then seemed to have popped back out. He might join us shortly. But in any event, we can move on to just sharing resources, the sharing resources portion of the town hall. Leslie, would you like to go first?
So one second, I'm sorry to interrupt. So we have Dr. Malcolm also from the African Chamber.
Oh
So
my goodness, I'm so sorry.
yeah.
Apologies, Dr. Malcolm. I'm Dr. Newton. I have an old agenda. Sorry about that. Would you like to go next?
Unmute.
I am unmuted. I
Yes.
am Dr. H. Malcolm Newton. I represent the African Chamber as Vice Chair, and it's been a delight to be here working with our African immigrants on small business development, being able to get them in what we call technical assistance for small businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Thank you.
Thank you for being here as well. Okay. Now that I've gotten myself sorted out, I have my new agenda. Forgive me for that. Leslie, would you like to share some updates on legislation?
Sure. So I will let Marcia and some of the other folks from the SBDCs and SBA share details on PPP and some of the bigger business support programs that are available right now through the federal government. But I also wanted to provide a quick update on the implementation of some of the state capital programs that were passed by the Colorado General Assembly in the past 10, 11 months or so, and some of which are still coming or will be launched in coming weeks. So starting with SB 20B001. So this was a bill that passed in December of last year. This provided two critical components that OEDIT is administering. First, it provided about $7.5 million for arts organizations and individuals. That money was just all awarded, I think, in the last week. We got thousands and thousands of applicants from arts organizations and artists, individual artists. We were able to award about half of the individual artists and about a fourth of the arts organizations. So there's still a great need there. I think there's some hope that there might be some more funding coming for that effort very soon. And then another component of that bill that was then later rewritten in the January legislative session provides $4 million for disproportionately impacted small businesses. This program we're looking to launch probably near the end of March, early April. And that will be for micro businesses or other disproportionately impacted businesses. There's a list of criteria that a business would need to meet in order to be eligible for those funds. Again, we're looking at late March, early April to launch that. And then some other programs last spring, SB 22222 provided $20 million for the Energize Colorado Gap Fund. For grants from the Energize Colorado Gap Fund, all of those grants have since been awarded, but they are about to launch their loans coming through that program. So I think there will be a couple rounds of loans through the Energize Gap program and team. And the first round, I believe, will be launching the next couple of weeks. And then finally, SB 2014-13. This is the Climber Fund. These are loans for slightly larger businesses, businesses with 5 or more employees. And these are loans, not grants again. And that fund will be launched in the coming weeks as well. So for more information on any of these funds and to get notice about actual launch date, eligibility criteria, and all of that good stuff, I would send you to oedit.colorado.gov/COVID-19, and I can drop that into the chat in just 1 minute. But on that resource page, you'll find details on all of those funds I just described, as well as PPP and other access to capital programs. But I'd say my number one piece of advice is that at the bottom of that resource page, you can sign up for email updates from OEDIT, and we will let you know proactively if you sign up there when these programs that are still forthcoming will be launching. So we'll give you a heads up like, hey, by the way, in 3 days, Climber Fund is going to launch, start collecting XYZ materials right now. So that's a really good resource for everyone to have. So I guess that's probably it from me.
Wonderful, thank you. I think that would be a good segue. Would then have Marcia go next then.
I'll just share my screen. Okay, it says I can't share my screen, and that's okay. I'm prepared both ways. Again, my name is Marcia Mcgilly, and I'm with the Aurora-South Metro Small Business Development Center. I want to talk a little bit from the top down. The Small Business Development Centers are funded by the SBA, the United States Small Business Administration in Washington. They send funds out to all 50 states and the territories. Each state or territory then divides their geographic area up into centers. The state of Colorado has 15 centers, and our geographic area for Aurora-South Metro is, if you said Denver was here, and we do Jefferson County, we do South Jefferson County, all of Douglas County down to Parker, Castle Rock, that whole Douglas County period, and up around to Aurora, so Arapahoe County, Inglewood, all of those cities, and over to Arapahoe County. That's us. We're like the smile or the smirk around the city and county of Denver. There are 15 centers. If you're not from our Arapahoe, South Jefferson, Arapahoe, Douglas County, then you would want to go to the website, which I believe, yes, that my colleague is going to put these into the chat for you as I speak, so that you can go to the website and put your zip code in, check on the map, and find the right center. For our center, we have 3 offices geographically to help you. We are hosted at the city of Aurora, and we're gratefully happy to be there. We have an office at the city of Inglewood for consulting, and we do have Thrive Centennial, which is a co-working space in Centennial. So we have geographic offices when we open. We're all virtual now. We do 2 things really easy. First and foremost, we do free and confidential one-on-one consulting. That is confidential consulting between you as the entrepreneur and our business experts. And then we also do workshops and webinars. I wanted to start out with a little success story. Grandma's Rock and Rolls came to us in 2016 and said, we want to start with our grandma's recipe and make rock and roll these rolls that are cinnamon rolls in all different flavors. They attended our leading edge business plan class, a 30-hour class, and wrote a business plan. They bootstrapped and started their business. After 30 hours of consulting and many years, because they were with us through about 2 years ago, they did launch that February of 16. And they baked from home until they expanded to a commercial kitchen of their own, which they built on their home. They then got a concession trailer, and then last purchased an encruster machine. And at each phase, if they needed money or they needed expansion or resources, we were able to help them and connect them with those resources. So that's kind of an example of what we do. Our virtual one-on-one consulting is in both English and Spanish. There is no cost to the entrepreneur. It's your tax dollars at work. And thank you to the SBA and the city of Aurora. And it is confidential. So whatever you share with us, we don't share with anyone else. I used to laugh and say, when I was married, if I was at the grocery store with my ex-husband, someone would come up to us and they would say, Marcia, I have to tell you about my business. I would say, my husband doesn't work for the SBDC. And I'd say, honey, and I'd give him the list, and he'd go get the groceries and we'd go have coffee at the Starbucks up front. And that happened a lot at the grocery store. So that's how confidential things are. We also do webinars, right? We're 100% virtual now. The Leading Edge program is funded by the state of Colorado through OEDIT, and we are housed through OEDIT. The Leading Edge program is a business plan class. We have one that's for startups, which is launching, marketing, cash flow, and business plan. We have one for existing businesses, a 4-part series to pivot your business model. We have classes in accounting, marketing, financial documents, the pandemic loan, all the loan and grant programs from the federal, state, county, and municipality. We help assist clients in applying, strategizing which ones are best from them, and then how to do that forgiveness. So we do all of that consulting, and we have a transportation with the Department of Transportation, Colorado Department of Transportation program, that we help people get their certifications for that and learn how to get bids. We are rated by the SBA for our grant funding based on our economic impact, which is how many jobs were created. Last year, 104 in our territory. 152 jobs were retained, even in the pandemic. $7.8 million of grants and loans were given to businesses. That was a stellar year, even though the pandemic has been so difficult. These numbers represent the resiliency of the entrepreneurs in our state, really do. Increased sales, and these are reported by our clients, that there were $17.3 million of increase in sales from the year before. That's the businesses that did succeed and stepped on further. We know many businesses closed, and we helped some of them close, and it has been a very sad year, but we do have some successes. And then government contracts, our clients were able to procure $1.7 million in government contracts. I want to shift a little bit now to the city of Aurora, which is where we are hosted, our main office is. Through Arapahoe and Adams County CARES funds to the city of Aurora, they had three, what they called their AER, round 1, 2, and 3. Round 1 was the Aurora Economic Relief Program. Round 2 was the Recovery Program. Round 3 was the Resiliency Program. The first round were $3,000 and $5,000 grants for payroll and rental assistance. The round 2 were up to $15,000 grants to reestablish business operations. So if you needed PPE or contactless payment systems or build a drive-through to your building, that's what the second round was for. And then AER 3, they were up to $30,000 loans or grants, and they were for payroll and rental assistance if you could prove you were behind. The city also had a wonderful restaurant relief program up to $10,000, and that was for restaurants, breweries, and caterers, and 47 restaurants applied and were granted. Through the CARES Act, the city of Aurora was able to disperse a little over $11 million in grants. So there are so many organizations out there helping us and helping us help you. No, the last thing I'd like to do is talk just a second about another success story. Dry Dock Brewery worked with the Small Business Development Center from 2011 to present. They had about 35 hours of consulting. They started out with a $4.3 million SBA 504 loan, which I'm sure Francis and David will get into. They started with 2 employees and currently have 24 full-time and 22 part-time employees. They expanded from 9,000 square feet to 30,000 square feet. They pivoted clearly with takeout during the pandemic. They've won over 50 Great American Beer Festival awards. And then this last year, they were named the Small Persons of the Year Award for the Colorado District. And we were very proud to give them that award. From the SBA gave them that award. Thank you for attending my little section. We have a webinar, way to register for webinars and consulting and one-on-one coaching. And if that hasn't been put in, because I've not been watching the chat, I've been trying to focus on y'all, I will put those in if those have not been put in. Thank you for the time and for being here.
Thank you so much, Marcia. Okay, would Francis and David, would you like to go next?
Sure. Do you think David's going to try to share his screen?
Let me see. Apologies, Marcia. I thought that you could share it as a panelist. Let me give you some co-hosting.
Yeah, right now it's not letting me, so we can still start without.
Yeah, well, we can talk through. We have so much to cover in so very little time, and I want to give you as much as I possibly can in this little snippet. I know you guys are all aware that the stimulus relief package was signed into law in late December, and then SBA once again is playing a really significant role in delivering those recovery and disaster assistance funds. So with my time here today, I'm going to try to give you as high a level summary and an overview of the programs and the incentives that were authorized under that Economic Aid Act. And David's going to cover Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP. And we know there's so many details and so many moving pieces to every one of these programs. We're the federal government, we make it as complex as possible. So I want you to know that although we're not going to be able to get into the real specific details today, you can find a lot of the information on sba.gov/coronavirus relief, and we'll put that in the chat as well. But you can go through each one of these programs that I'm going to speak to on a high level, and then David on PPP, and find more details there. That's the best place to go. So starting with what changed under our SBA regular core programs, specifically under our finance programs. Our flagship programs in SBA are really our government guarantee programs, 7A, 504, and micro loans. And they come in different kinds of flavors and buckets, but those are the three main ones. So the incentive that happened under the Economic Aid Act is we expanded some flexibilities and waived some fees so that there would be a hope that we could infuse more new capital into the economy. So to the extent that you don't need just PPP, or you don't need a disaster loan, but you're looking for funding to expand, to grow, to do other kinds of things, buy assets, inventory, et cetera, that don't relate to just payroll protection. This is what happened. The law temporarily waived both lender and borrower fees for new loans, and that's under the 7A and the 504 loan program and Community Advantage. So normally you would pay a one-time guarantee fee to participate, and then lenders would pay an annual servicing fee, but right now those are waived through the end of September, which is the federal fiscal year end. Also during that time frame, our 7A loan guarantees are increasing to 90%. That also includes Community Advantage loans. So this is kind of the insurance policy that lenders get in order to maybe move a maybe answer to a commercial loan to a yes, because they do have the full faith and credit of the federal government behind them. So a higher guarantee percentage, we hope, incentivizes more lenders to participate. There's also some temporary changes to our SBA Express program. This is a program that's mainly used when a client needs a revolving line of credit. So through the end of September, again, the maximum loan amount for an SBA Express loan increased from $350,000 to $1 million. And the guarantee percentage also temporarily increased from 50% to 75% for loans that are under $350,000, recognizing that we know that some small businesses need smaller lines of credit. We want to incentivize lenders to extend revolving lines of credit to smaller applicants. So they'll get a higher guarantee percentage. As it pertains to economic injury disaster loans, EIDL, both the loan program and the new targeted advance program. Under the Act, the SBA and Congress extended the deadline to apply for the long-term COVID-19 EIDL loan. So if you haven't made application for the EIDL disaster loan, you have until December 31st of 2021. Just a reminder, these are working capital loans to help you meet financial obligations and some operating expenses that you could not meet because of the disaster. They're 30-year loans. They have an interest rate of 3.75 for for-profits and 2.75 for nonprofits. Once you get the loan, the payments are actually deferred for a whole 12 months after closing, so you don't have to start making those payments right away. We're accepting applications from all qualified small businesses. That includes agricultural businesses and private nonprofit organizations. If you haven't done so, you can go online and apply. If you've already applied, you don't have to reapply. We're still going through those applications. Also, in addition, the Economic Aid Act allocated an additional $20 billion to offer what they're calling targeted EIDL advances. And these are for eligible entities that are located in low-income communities. So if you remember, under the CARES Act, we had EIDL advances that were basically funded by $1,000 per employee. Well, what the Economic Aid Act says now is that we want to make those that are in low-income communities whole What Congress really wanted was for us to give them the full $10,000, not $1,000 per employee. So right now what SBA is doing is going back through those that already received an EIDL advance. And we're going to invite those people to come back into the disaster portal if they meet the definition of targeted, and I will get into that, but to try to make you whole from whatever you received up to $10,000. So you don't have to do anything if you meet the definition of targeted. SBA will invite you to come back into the portal, and then you'll start the process of submitting information. So this is what we're defining as meeting the definition of targeted. If you're located in a low-income community, and that's defined by an IRS section, and SBA is actually using a mapping tool, and pretty soon we're going to be putting that mapping tool on our website so that you can go in and punch in your address and determine whether or not you would fall into our mapping area and the definition of low income. You also would have to demonstrate that you had a more than 30% reduction in revenue during a certain 8-week period last year. And you have to have 300 or fewer employees. So those are the 3 basic criteria. So we're going to invite you back to make you whole up to 10,000. Then if there's still money remaining, what we're going to do is invite those who have already made an EIDL application, whether it was for an advance or just a long-term loan, but you didn't get funded for an advance because the money ran out. We're going to invite you back into the portal to ask for this targeted advance. And again, you don't need to do anything, but you still do have to meet the definition under that targeted community. So if you want more information, please visit our SBA website at Coronavirus Relief, and you can find all these stratifications and some tips about what to expect when SBA contacts you to come back into the portal and start gathering your documentation. The next incentive I want to cover is a continuation of SBA debt relief that was provided under CARES Act. So under that act, SBA made 6 months of payments on SBA loans that were in good standing on behalf of borrowers. This wasn't a deferment. These were actual principal and interest payments. Well, that sunset on September 27th with the CARES Act. So Congress recently appropriated an additional $3.5 billion. And so that allows us to resume making those payments of principal and interest on eligible SBA guaranteed loans. And that would be under 7A, Community Advantage, 504, and SBA microloans. We just recently outlined in SBA guidance to lenders how we're going to prioritize the debt relief and how it's going to be applied for different loan types and different time periods. And unfortunately, because it's not an unlimited allocation, we might have to adjust the number of months for each one of those periods. And that really depends on funding availability. But in summary, here is how it's going to work. If you are eligible for debt relief or continuation of debt relief, it's limited to $9,000 per month. So we would be making principal and interest payments on your SBA loans up to $9,000 a month. If you owe more than that per month, you're responsible for paying the difference. It's one SBA loan per borrower that can receive this debt relief, and the debt relief can't exceed the outstanding loan balance, of course. So for 7A and 504 loans, depending on when the SBA loan was approved and what industry you're in, you're either going to get an additional 3 months of payments, or you may get 8 months of payments. And those that will get 8 months of payments will be based on if you're in one of the hardest hit industry codes. And we have a list of those, and we're going to post those in the chat just so you'll know, again, depending on funding availability. If you were a Community Advantage or an SBA microloan client, you're going to automatically get those 8 months of payments outright, subject to funding availability. Also, if you enter into a new SBA loan, so a new 504, new Community Advantage, new microloan, new 7A, all that are approved and in regular servicing between February and September of this year, you're going to get that initial 6 months of payments that we made for the others last year. So that's basically how debt relief is going to work. Again, go to the website and you'll find more details. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is the Shuttered Venues Operator Grant. So the Economic Aid Act incorporated $15 billion that was allocated under the Save Our Stages Act, and it created a grant program under SBA called Shuttered Venue Operator Grant. And the purpose of this is to aid independent local entertainment venues that were impacted by restrictions caused by COVID. So what we're going to do is facilitate grants that will cover costs like payroll, rent, mortgages, PPE, etc. So the initial grants are going to be made to, and these are the eligible entities: live venue operators or promoters, theatrical producers, live performing arts organization operators, museum operators, motion picture theater operators, or talent representatives who demonstrate at least a 25% reduction in revenue. You have to have been in operation as of February 29th of 2020. You cannot receive a new PPP loan or have anything booked from December 27th on, because that's a disqualifying event. So it's either shuttered venues or a new PPP. Applicants may qualify for the grants equal to 45% of the gross earned revenue from last year, up to $10 million. If you want to see, there are sample calculations on the website so that you can figure out what that would look like. We're going to have a prioritization order to roll out the applications, and those who suffered the greatest economic loss will basically get to go first. So if it's 90% or more economic loss, you'll go first for a period of time. Then those that had 70% will go, and then those that had 25% or more. The rest of the details of the program, unfortunately, are still being worked out. We're updating a pretty comprehensive FAQ document weekly on our website. Again, you want to go to Coronavirus Relief and then click on the Shuttered Venue Operator Grant icon. And one last thing, we do have a new feature on our website. It's called the cross-program eligibility on coronavirus relief options. Right now, what it does is it shows you if you want to apply for PPP, EIDL, and Shuttered Venue Operators grants, where the interplay is between the three. Can you have an SVOG and a new PPP? No. Can you have an SVOG and an EIDL loan? Yes, as long as you don't spend it for the same purpose. Those kinds of things. So it's a quick and easy check for yourself. And I'm going to stop there and turn it over to David to kind of cover PPP.
All right, I'll do a quick run through PPP, and I'm going to actually, let's see if it'll let me go here and run down. I'm going to run down through basically both the draw and the second draw. And the reason I'm doing that is because we know we added with the new economic aid, we added some businesses that weren't eligible to the first draw. So I'll cover what that is, because if they weren't eligible on the first one and they're applying for it now, then they fall under the rules of the first draw. So we invited new entities like I put on there. Of course, the part of it that's covered here is to use the money, you can choose up to 8 to 24 weeks to use it. If you did get a first draw and for some reason the calculations did not maximize your full 2.5 months of payroll, you can go back to your original lender now and ask for an increase on that. But again, that goes back to the original lender. You'll have to be able to show them that you did not get the full amount that you were totally eligible for, and they can recalculate that and ask for an extension. The key to all this is that big date at the bottom, which is March 31st, because that is when the applications must be completed. Whether you're doing a first draw or second draw, applications must be done and into the SBA by then. And I throw that into the SBA, so that means you will have to have worked with your lender prior to that to get the lender to submit that to us. So walking into a lender on the 31st and saying, hey, I want to apply, you may not make the time frame. So you're going to want to get out there and do that beforehand. For the first draw, like I said, we added new eligibility, whether we added some housing cooperatives, some market designated marketing. The 501c6s was the big one, the Chamber of Commerce's, most of those are now eligible. And we also put eligible news organizations. If you're a news organization and you want to know whether you fall under that eligibility, then just reach out to me. I will go through that with you rather than try to go through all that now. And of course, all businesses were eligible before are still eligible now. Partnerships, corporations, sole props, our nonprofits, our veterans, and our tribal businesses. Second draw. For second draw, the differences for the second draw is we've reduced the amount of employees down to 300. You have to have 300 or less employees. You have to be able to show that you suffered a 25% reduction in your gross receipts between the last year and 2019, 2020. The differences is for most borrowers, it stays under the same rules as last time. You can borrow up to 2.5 times your average monthly, and you can go up to 2 million. But there is one for those who are food services, accommodations, those types of things. That has increased up to 3.5% your average monthly payroll costs, but it's still up to the 2 million limit. Additional eligibility criteria for this is to get the second draw on the PPP, you will have to, well, you can apply for it, but you cannot actually make a draw on the second draw until you have actually used all the amount of money that you got in the first. So if you have a first PPP, you can go apply for a second one. The lending institutions will take that application. You just can't access that money until you have exhausted the first. That's the part of it is, again, cannot have more than 300 employees this time, and you need to be able to demonstrate at least a 25% reduction. And that you're gonna have to show to the lending institution that you use. For forgiveness side of things, the updates on this is prior we were required to take the idle, if you got an idle advance, we were required to reduce that off of your forgiveness. That has been taken away. So if you applied for forgiveness and we reduced your idle advance out of that forgiveness, we are currently working with those lending institutions to make that whole. So we will work with them to make sure that that gets made up. If you paid off your loan, then obviously the lending institution will reimburse you for it. If the loan is still out there, then obviously the lending institution will apply that towards that loan to make sure that's all taken care of. The forgiveness part, again, PPP loans are not taxable. Expenses paid with PPP are now tax deductible. We expanded forgiveness expenses, which I'll get into in just a bit as I finish up here. Well, I'll go through it now. The advanced expenses, basically now anything that you used for operating expenses can be covered under the operating expenses part, the 40%. As far as the payroll side, as long as it isn't the taxes on payroll expenses, we pretty much count that for payroll now. Part of the example for that, really simple, is before we were saying medical expenses for medical insurance, all that, that's expanded. Dental insurance is covered. Eye coverage is covered. If the employer happens to make a contribution to retirement funds and all that, that is covered as part of the expenses that are eligible for forgiveness with use of the PPP. This one here, what to do now? The biggest one is contact your lender. That is a big key. If you haven't applied for a PPP, whether first or second, and you're eligible, then please reach out to a lender and utilize and apply for that. The other part of it is the lender is the key to this whole PPP process. If for some reason you're getting the lenders coming to you and saying, hey, we did your application, but now there's a holdup with the SBA, I will share with everybody that yesterday the SBA had a nationwide webinar with all the lender associations, letting them know how to clear up some of those delays that people are experiencing. So if you are assisting businesses or you're a business owner out there and you're being told that your current PPP is being held up a little bit at the SBA, reach out to your lender. Lenders have access to the system that they input the application, that they can see if the SBA is requiring more information. I'll give a couple examples on it. If the SBA is requiring more information right now, then it is up to the lender to provide that to the SBA so that we can get these loans applications out to the lenders. And I'll use a couple examples. An easy one here is, let's say a borrower used their own social security number for their business on the first draw. And then in the meantime, have gone out and got an EIN for the business and applied on the second draw. With our verification process, we are seeing that there's a difference in that number. So we reach out back to the lender and say, hey, we need verification that this is actually the same person. And we are asking the lender for that information. So the borrower is going to need to work with the lender to kind of clear that up. Another example is during the second draw, some borrowers were a little anxious, visited multiple lending institutions, did multiple applications. Now they get notified from those different ones saying, hey, you already have a pending application. Again, they need to go through the lenders to clear that up. Go back to the lenders, have them withdraw, whichever lender they're going to use, then utilize that one to go through that. But for the borrowers, the key to this process and making it much easier is contact the lender. That's the easiest way to do it. Now for the borrowers, if you haven't applied and you're looking for a lender, if you've gone to your bank and they say they're not doing it the second round, or if you've gone to a financial institution, they say we're only doing it for our current customers, you can go to the SBA website, lender match. That is on our website. You go in there, you pretty much put in your information. This has been tailored for PPP now, not just our lending, our normal lending, but we have tailored this for PPP. You go in there, you put in your information. We reach out to a couple lenders in your area that are doing PPP loans. They will contact you in a couple of days. You can talk to them, and then you can apply for the loan itself. But the other part of it that's been mentioned by Marcia, the other part the SBA has is our resource partners. I'm not going to get into it because Marcia did a great job, but I will share with you every time I get to this slide and I talk about resource partners, I want to remind everybody that resource partners are out there to help you and assist you. The SBA has a number of them out there to take part in that. We are all in this together. You're not in this alone. So reach out to them, whether it's a SCORE chapter, whether it's a Mikasa Women's Business Resource Center, your local Chamber of Commerce, or the Small Business Development Centers. They are all out there to help you. They're resource partners that are funded to do this. So yes, take advantage of those and go ahead and reach out to them. This one has our contact information. This is at the Colorado District Office. I will leave this up as I pass it back to you, Francis, to give any final thoughts that she has from the SBA.
I think that covers it, but just know that we're here to help you in any way. If you have any questions, shoot us an email. That's the easiest way to get a hold of us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Stephanie, or excuse me, Francis. Thank you so much, Francis. And thank you, David, for sharing your resources. Stephanie, would you like to go next? I've made you post if you need it.
Absolutely. Yes, I have two programs to talk about today from Arapahoe County. The first one is a small business relief program, and it's actually Arapahoe County administering the Senate Bill 20B-001. So Arapahoe County was awarded just over $4 million. And we actually opened our application back in January. It closed on January 31st because the original bill had a fairly tight turnaround to award grants. We just received notice yesterday that we have been extended. So this grant will be reopening tomorrow morning. So you will see a press release go out about it. But the first round of this small business grant, we allocated 203 awards to businesses or individual business awards totaling $955,423. There is, we have over $3 million remaining. So again, you will see that grant reopen tomorrow morning. The grant award amounts are based on the gross receipts of the business. So basically, if you're a business that has a gross receipt level of $500,000 or less, there is up to $3,500 available. If you have between $500,000 and $1 million in gross receipts, there is a $5,000 grant available. And then finally, if you are between $1 million and $2.5 million in gross receipts, you have up to $7,000 available. The qualifications and the eligibility is listed on Arapahoe County's website. I will put that link in the chat box for everybody to join in. And when you go there today, this is just now happening. So you're going to see old information, but it will be updated by morning and ready to reopen. And then finally, we have the Arapahoe County 5-star certification partner program. And this is where Arapahoe County has applied for a variance to have our businesses go through a certification process that if you are inspected showing that you're operating at the CDC guidelines and opening safely, then once you're certified, we will actually have a partner come out and inspect your business. And once that inspection is done, you'll be 5-star certified and you can operate one level lower than where the county is on the dial for the state. Right now, there's been a little bit of confusion because the state just went into yellow, or the Arapahoe County went into yellow on the dial. Where the confusion is that the metrics have just changed. And right now, we can actually have our 5-star businesses operate one level less on the dial when the county gets to 70% vaccination rate for those that are 70 years or older. So I think as of yesterday, I think we were right around 50%. So we have a little ways to go before we can actually have that 5-star program be a real benefit right now for those businesses that are certified. However, there is on the Arapahoe County website a list of businesses. We currently have 273 businesses certified, and they are listed on the Arapahoe County website. So as a consumer, if you would like to go to those businesses that are 5-star certified, please visit the Arapahoe County 5-star website and know that that business is certified and operating and has been inspected to be operating at CDC level guidelines. So that is actually a positive. Hopefully we're hoping to increase consumer confidence and get people driven into those businesses, and we're partnering to try to help make that happen. So again, tomorrow, please, I'm going to put the website information in the chat, but please reach out to Arapahoe County's website and apply for that small business grant. If you qualify at that $2.5 million or less in gross receipts, please apply and we will reach out and work with you on it. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Stephanie. Kevin, would you like to speak next?
Well, thank you, Representative Ricks. Thank you. Welcome to the General Assembly. I think we'll have everybody back in, is it next week already, the 13th? So you are my representative, and Senator Buckner is too. So she unfortunately had to leave. Thanks for the opportunity to visit with everybody today. The Aurora Chamber, if you would go to our website, www.aurorachamber.org, you'll see that we have over 40 different websites listed in our resources. What we have is primarily business resources. We have employer-employee resources on our websites. We also have healthcare resources and information, rent assistance, which is needed at this time, mental health, of course, issues. We also, though, have food assistance programs on our website with both the Food Bank of the Rockies and, of course, SECOR. What we found is out of those 8 topics, we have over 40 websites that we partner with to get all those programs. A lot of them, what you've just heard of from Marcia and from David and Stephanie, are on there. We've been a proud partner working with both Arapahoe County, thank you, Stephanie, and helping getting that money out to these well-deserved companies. We also, of course, are in Adams County, so I also work with the Adams County folks also. Aurora's is strange. We're in Douglas County too, but not a lot. And so, but we have great partners. The Chamber really has been working with our members and with the business community on recovery and lead. We need to build back a strong, resilient economy, as we all know. And so one of the programs we started actually in May, and it has been one of the biggest programs. This is my 27th year at the Aurora Chamber. And so this is one of the biggest programs I've seen, and that's our Buy Local program. A quick example is at the end of May, the city of Aurora, plus jurisdictions all over, were probably 30 or 40% down on their retail tax collections. And so the city of Aurora was faced with about a $35 million deficit, if not more. Something remarkable happened when you have a Buy Local program. Support your brick and mortar. Amazon's not your friend, and eat out at least twice a week to a local restaurant. But what's happened is Aurora at the end of December had over $6 million in over a record year of 2019 in retail tax collections. So by buying local, supporting your local brick and mortar, it works. And so again, I don't want to demonize Amazon, but for those of you that are not shopping local, shame on you. So please support these brick and mortars. It really does work in our communities to build back what we need to do. The Chamber has 3 simple processes. We're a catalyst, a convener, and a champion. And so we've been really working with our business community and with our legislators, our city councils, and our county commissioners to get through this. And so that's what's needed. We become a 3M community. What happened is years ago when we were all younger, we always shopped on Main Street. Then we shopped in the malls, and now we're shopping in the Mayo. What's happened is online shopping has gone from 2% just a few years ago to before the pandemic, about a year ago, we were probably at a 10 or 12% of us were shopping online. Today, it's 34%. And it is needed and welcomed, but it's got to come to us a screeching halt if we want our retail centers to exist, if we want the Cherry Creek Mall, if we want the Town Center of Aurora, the Stanley Marketplace, South Shore, Southlands, I could go on and on. If you have not been into any of these retail centers, there are a lot of boarded up entities already, and we've got to support our restaurants and our retail, and our hotels are suffering. So think of that when you're doing a stay vacation, that's where the hotels right now are getting their revenue. We do not have conventions, we don't have conferences, and so we've got a long recovery. But I think by buying local, supporting these local merchants, we can be a lot further along, and we can actually prove it by the sales tax collections in our community. I talked to the Longmont Chamber president just yesterday. They were forecasting a 40% drop in retail sales tax. They've experienced about 5%. So they also have a strong buy local. Thanks for the opportunity. Please take a look at our website. I really value what all of the partners on the web, the Zoom have been doing now. Representative Ricks, thank you for bringing us together. We've got a long time to recover, and working together like this with these fabulous partners are going to be the way to do it. So buy local, shop till you drop, and support those brick and mortars. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you, Kevin. And now, Dr. Newton, would you like to speak?
Let me unmute. I was taking notes and at the same time sending questions. You know, I'm representing the African Chamber today, and there's a lot going on during this pandemic. But I have to go soon, but I want to put my questions out there to the panelists, because I'm a panelist as well. But I'm looking at both sides of the continuum, and that is that I'm just wondering how many of the immigrant community have received any of these funds that were thrown out there at us today, whether it's the stimulus, whether it's the economic disaster relief, or the PPP, or the Economic AIDS Act. I'm just wondering who the money is going to. I'm wondering about the $114 million that Arapahoe County received. I'm wondering about all the money out there that Arapahoe County has given and have received from the federal government, and have given some to the city of Aurora. As a representative of the African Chamber, this is a concern. How do we get the money in the hands of those that are really hurting and those that really need it? And from where I sit, I see Black, Indigenous, people of color not really receiving hardly any of that money. If someone from the county or from the Aurora Chamber or from the SBDC can give us the facts, can give us the data, that would satisfy me and a lot of my members and constituents. We hear all this money coming in, and who's getting the money? Where's it going? Because the minorities are not getting it. And that's a concern for me as a chamber officer. So I was going to give the same thing that Kevin gave, but it's no use to me giving it because he gave it. Arapahoe County, CARES Act, foster care program, rental assistance, child care assistance, business, all that stuff. I was going to give the same thing. And it's no use to me giving it. So I'm just going to stick to my piece and asking the questions to the other panelists who are more knowledgeable than myself. Give us some answers. Give us some data. Where's the money going? Because the money is disappearing and we're not getting it. Please help us.
I'm happy to respond to you first, Dr. Newton, if you'd like, and I put it in the chat when you asked me the questions. For the Small Business Development Center, when clients come to us, first of all, we market widely. We have worked with your organization, Chuck Hahn, I think you know he retired. So we've had a connection with your organization. I've been there before as well. When we send our information out, It is up to the entrepreneur to avail themselves of the information or the services that we have, and we'll help anybody and everybody that comes to help us, comes in. When clients register for the Small Business Development Center, because we're government funded, we have an application process, a form, 641A, a form. It asks demographic information, which is optional. Unfortunately, we wish it were not optional, but it is optional. And I will tell you that when I go through, less than 30% of our clients in our area answer the demographic questions. I've looked at this. I've asked my consultants at every first session, look at the registration page, ask questions, ask if they put no reply, which many people do. I don't know why, but they do. And if they put that, please ask them, tell them that it's not something that we pull from, that we might have a specific program for them. And they'll change that with their permission if possible. If not, they can't. So the data I can pull based on certain demographic information is very limited, and it's limited to the information they share with us. And I know that's not the answer you want to hear.
Well, thank you anyway for being courageous and doing the work that you're doing.
And I'm happy for us to come talk to your group directly. We're helping, I can only tell you because I spent 2.5 hours this week on our Spanish community. I went through every Spanish language appointment in January and double checked that it was put under the minority grant, et cetera. And so there are things that, and if it doesn't check that they checked Hispanic, I cannot put it under a specific grant.
Right.
I have minority business money, so let's talk, okay? Let's do something.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Let me just add one more thing before someone else comments. I'm supposed to go pick up my granddaughter in a little bit. You know, I'm not a race man. I'm not a Jesse Jackson or Al Sharpton or Cornel West, but I'm an observer. And I see that in this, when the chamber was invited to meet with all of the immigration organizations and refugees organizations, when we attended that meeting, you know, we were the only people of color there. They were mostly all whites that are directors and coordinators and of all these immigrant organizations and refugees. And I guess my point is this: it used to be whites and Hispanics. Hispanic was out there. All the directors were Hispanic. All the programs were going to the Hispanics, but none was coming to the African immigrant community. Thank God for Atem, the first African to head up the city and county of Denver immigration office. That hasn't happened in years. This is brand new as of 2019. And I'm saying that, yes, we're going to reach out to the Latinos and the Hispanics, but who's reaching out to the African immigrant communities, which is so diverse?
And I do think you're connected with this, the City of Aurora's Office of Immigrant and International Affairs, correct?
I am.
Okay.
But they're basically reaching out to the Hispanics.
We're working with your community, Korean community, the Asian community. We're working with lots of different groups. The Aurora, we are. You and I need to talk. I just put my contact information in the chat directly to you.
Thank you so much, Marcia.
Happy to do what.
Is it possible to respond real quick? I have not been introduced yet, but I'm Mike Ferrufino. I'm president and CEO of the Colorado Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. But Dr. Newton, I will tell you that your concerns are the same concerns I have as well. And that I think that there are challenges across the board with the immigrant community, regardless of whether they're Latino immigrants, African immigrants. You know, we have an incredibly diverse immigrant population in Colorado. And I think on one side, you know, I'm happy to say that the last basically Republican, you know, approved, President Trump signed CARES Act dollars at the end of December did allow for mixed status households. That has been kept intact despite the non-binding vote by John Hickenlooper that was very controversial last week. We are big advocates for collective immigrant ability to be able to go through and participate in this recovery. Coronavirus is not discriminated against somebody's legal status, neither should we. So that is one thing. On the other side is really going through and saying, we have all these tremendous programs out, you know, from PPP to 5-star EIDL, we have grants, we have loans, we have Energize Colorado that has loans and grants, we have the Climber Fund, we have small business relief going on in every single county. and straight across the board, when you look at communities of color, when you look at immigrant communities, and I will go through really quickly and share my screen in a moment, there are the same challenges based upon a set of factors. Those were present before COVID, those are amplified after COVID. So I think that this is a challenge all of us need to be able to go through and really try to help, determine how we best communicate to, these communities. And I think one of the challenges, Dr. Newton, is that there are some blind spots. I think there are blind spots at all types of leaders in different positions. We don't know what we don't know, and that there is kind of an let's say, simplification in terms of desire of using different nonprofit organizations, of figuring that they should have direct access and have the capacity to be able to carry that message to everybody else. So by simply having you as part of this panel, or having you as part of some other organization or committee, there's the expectation that I'm checking the box and getting the entire African immigrant community, which is not the case. So I think one solution is to take organizations like yours, and for Arapahoe County, for Adams County, for the city of Aurora, for the city of Denver, to help provide some grant funding, to build your capacity as an organization, to help amplify your voice. That is one thing. The other thing is really thinking about determining different channels of communication for these different communities, right? Once again, the Hispanic community is not monolithic, right? We have Colombians, we have Peruvians, we have Argentines, we have Mexicans, El Salvadorians. That is a big problem. And coronavirus as a infection rate and hospitalization rate and death rate is not affecting the community as a whole equally. It is really hyper concentrated on a piece of the community that has limited access to healthcare, that has really poor outcomes, that has a higher unemployment rate, and so like I said, but it is a challenge of just getting people to understand the diversity of the communities. So I think on one side, I'd love to talk to you about helping to put together some data, and help making sure we're able to communicate that. On the other side, I think it's really kind of making sure that, we're looking at not a one size solution for the entire BIPOC community, which is a term I really don't like to begin with, because it does not necessarily identify, you're right, the challenges and the opportunities and needs with each different segment. So I'll kind of stop there, except to say that, yes, I want to, acknowledge all the hard work that everybody else is doing on this call, but also say, we need to put a little more effort into, more than just translating the information, posting it on our website. We need to take the additional step of saying, how do we go through and really increase participation? And if that is ultimately saying from the General Assembly, can we go through and say, listen, out of $10 million, if African immigrants represent X percentage of the population, how do we set up goals to make sure we're able to really try to make sure that that bucket of dollars is delivered to that community, and it's not a first come, first serve, right? How do we use the resources, one, to make sure that they're available? Number two, how do we make sure they're accessible? Those are the two steps I think that are really.
I like that. I like that very much.
So anyways, I'd love to kind of continue to touch with you, but I don't want to dominate the rest of this. I just wanted to respond to your questions.
Thank you so much, Mike.
And thank you. Thank you, guys. And thank you so much, Mike. I am going to jump in now because I am familiar with this topic, and I know that that is one of the chiefest and biggest complaints from the immigrant communities. What is the Asian Pacific Development Center, where we have Asian businesses? As you know, Aurora is just so heavily diverse, 160 different languages, and immigrant businesses make up a large portion of the small businesses and micro businesses. Is important that when these funds are come into the city, when they come into the county, when they come into the state or from the state, they are, there's proper outreach. And outreach is not just putting it in the newspaper or translating it like Mike said. It's more than that. You need to work with nonprofit organizations that have reach into the community. And by working with these organizations, it's not just saying, okay, can you transfer this to your members? You have to allocate funds so that these businesses are able to reach, knock the doors, make the phone calls, and get these businesses to the table. They need the help, but because of cultural barriers, because of language barriers, because of so many different things that prevent them from coming in, they're so focused on their businesses, they don't even know what's going on. I had someone tell me, oh, well, we put stuff in this paper or that paper. A lot of these small businesses are not reading these papers, so they're not going to get the information. So you cannot reach them like you reach the general public. They're immigrant businesses. They have different things on their minds. And so there has to be funds to help Hispanic chamber and African chamber and the Asian chamber reach out and do proper outreach, get out there and do it. They can't do it on the small resources that they have because, let's face it, everybody's going through this pandemic. If the small businesses are not doing well, then the chambers are not doing well because businesses are not paying in dues. So we really need to look at this differently. And the CARES Act dollars are dollars that are coming from the federal government, and for all the money to come through and immigrant businesses don't get any portion of it when they make up at least 30 to 40% of the small businesses in Aurora and Arapahoe County. That's a travesty. That's not a good look. So please, all of these people are on here, those who have the power to make these decisions, and we're going to be holding people accountable that they are doing that to reach out to small businesses. It's not okay to just say, they didn't come to the table. They may not come to the table, but what are you going to do to knock down their door to help them? And when they come to the table, maybe they don't have their paperwork together. So that means someone needs to hold their hands, and that's what these chambers will do to help them get it. We had a small business come through the African chamber, and by the time they were able to get their paperwork done within the 3-week period, the grant had closed. So they don't necessarily have those things. And so those are little nuances that, maybe other businesses don't go through, but we really need to keep that in mind. So I'll stop there, but this is a real conversation that needs to happen. Okay, so who's next? Did we miss anybody as far as conversation or resources?
So I think we got through all the panelists, and thank you, Mike, for being able to, we're glad that you were able to join us. And thank you, Representative Ricks, for speaking as well, and Dr. Newton for providing very insightful points. We got through all the resources, but I do want to leave some time. We have about 20 minutes for attendees to ask any questions that they may have. We have a Q&A box. You can submit any questions here. And I actually see there's one question already in here. Let me see. So from Jermaine is asking, where can one find a grant or loan to start a woman-owned, Black-owned small business? Looking to start this business due to lack of jobs available in the economy.
This is Kevin. Of course, we've got Marcia Mcgilly with our SBDC office. That's where we direct everybody to. We used to do those counseling services here at the chamber, but instead of replicating them, we really direct them over to our SBDC office on how to start a business up. First of all, getting a license, some of the basic things besides getting funded. They've got to, of course, get registered with the Secretary of State. It's always advised that they have an attorney to help them walk through. I know that's a costly situation, but I think they really need to take the classes that the SBDC offices have, not only locally, but statewide. So,
thanks for that.
Yeah, and real quick, a question I might have to both Mike and Malcolm is, how would you think we need to get the word out to our minority businesses? Our chamber is a little limited in that we don't, advertise on TV or anything. We really advertise to our members, and but we're not getting the message out. But I don't know quite how to reach out to those businesses, and so would love to help in getting the word out. But I think we need a little assistance also on how to do that. Directly to the chambers, I think, is the best idea. But how do we then support you getting the message out too? Because you don't touch every business either in these categories, as much as they should join your chambers. But there's, maybe 10 or 15% of the market that our chambers reach. And so there's probably 80% of our businesses might not be, especially our minority businesses, but a lot of businesses are not getting the message. And so I'd just reach out to you to see how we could help you.
Kevin, you are my hero for today. Thank you for your honesty. One of the things I want to suggest, and I'm not going to be long, is that we need to allocate some funds for just outreach purposes only. Because when you say, well, the money's there, go and get the money, fill out the application, send it in. I did that for 2 people. We were making phone calls to the city of Aurora that they never even answered. less messages. But if we have some money allocated for outreach to the Hispanic, outreach to the diverse African, money outreach just for that purpose, to let them know and give them technical assistance on how they can apply. You know, not just the money is there, but there's money for outreach to reach these communities. President Ricks, you want to comment on that?
Mike, did you have any?
Sure.
Feedback
Yeah,
for
absolutely. And I think, Kevin, on one side, thank you. You know, and it's good to see you again. And thank you. You've been always a really good support of ours. I think so. I would ask a couple of things. I'd ask one thing is to make sure that, you know, as much as we understand this is the right thing to do, I think it's important to carry that message too. It's also the smart business thing to do. Okay. Like, we are a country now where 44% of the country is non-white. We are a country that has been built upon immigration for generations. This is part of our secret sauce. Entrepreneurship is key to the immigration part of the American dream. You know, and you're looking at, you know, at compared to the general population, like, you know, like businesses being started in the immigrant community, you know, 5 to 7 times the national average. So this is a really important piece. Now, we've also seen data too from the Great Recession that our minority businesses and our minority communities, considering how big a part they are of the Denver metro area and our state and the overall country, that it's in our best interest to be able to go through and support this area that has been disproportionately affected, and it'll speed our recovery, both in the short term and long term. So I think being able to help carry that message to the other businesses within Aurora that you touch, city council members, elected officials, to kind of understand the importance is one thing. The other thing is that, as Dr. Malcolm had mentioned, I think part of it's helping to build capacity, you know, within other organizations to be able to go through and amplify that message. So for instance, on our side, you know, and this is something I've talked to, you know, whether it's city and county of Denver or Adams County, state, you know, is that there's this assumption that, we've got these Hispanic nonprofits, and let's just get the message to them and hopefully they'll get it out there. You know, and it's part of, like I said, it's kind of kick the can down the road at some point. You know, let's use grassroots. One, we don't know necessarily whether all these nonprofits like equally represent, you know, the right demographic to begin with. And two, whether they have the capacity or the knowledge to be able to go through and send a message with the frequency. That is another piece too. It's frequency and urgency that's necessary. So when you have a problem that is multiple fold, right? There's not just one issue that is creating this for these, you know, immigrant-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses. You know, it's also like there's a fundamental, like, you didn't start the business with access to capital to begin with, so you're already at a massive disadvantage. You know, so there are all these kind of roots to the challenges to begin with. There are cultural and language barriers. There are challenges navigating through the bureaucracy of municipalities. You know, so there's not a lot of confidence and faith that even if you do it right, so even if PPP or Arapahoe County did everything right, messaging money reached everybody, you know, at least once or twice or the same amount to the general public, you still would not have the participation, because you have a built-in kind of expectation that this is not for me, you know? So that's why we got to go through and generate more frequency. We've got to provide more help. You know, we've got to make sure that, you know, we talk about this idea of like application fatigue. You know, sometimes when we work with businesses that are like, man, I've applied to 20 things and got 0. I'm just done, you know, where there's others that really know how to work the system and they're 100% for 100%. So I think part of this is, and I'll kind of reach out to you offline in terms of some things that I would suggest maybe you can do. But for us, I mean, part of it's been saying, hey, listen, we don't have one TV station in Denver, you know, or Denver metro area that's Spanish language, or 2 or 3 or 4, or we have 5 full power Spanish language TV stations. That's how big the Hispanic market is here. If you and I wanted to go through and buy all of them, we would have to come up with $500 million. Blue chip companies that get it, you know, about half of Univision's revenue here locally in Telemundo is built upon blue chip companies that get it. The other half is local businesses because they want to communicate with each other. So when, you know, a state-based organization, a municipality says, listen, let's just use nonprofits, for me, that doesn't make sense. That's like printing flyers at Kinko's, you know, like nobody would do that. So I think part of it's understanding the channel, you know, and making sure that we're using best practices to reach those different communities in different ways. So.
Excellent.
Let me just add something. This is important because the immigrant small business community spending power is 12.9 billion in the state of Colorado. That's just the spending power of 38,434 small immigrant business power. Now, the undocumented entrepreneur, 11,607. 11,000 undocumented entrepreneurs are paying taxes for 415.7 million taxes in the state of Colorado. This data I have is as of 2019. They're contributing to the economy. Imagine what happened if this is in every state, in 50-something states in America, and all the immigrants decide to just leave America and go wherever they want to go. We would be in trouble as Americans. So this is important that we also give leverage and give credence to those who are paying taxes here as well. And I want to say to Mike, I'd love to get together with you so we can do some business together. Thank you.
I know both you gentlemen, and you guys will enjoy each other. So I would recommend that immediately, but we will definitely try to get the word out as best we can. I think just in Aurora, there's over 30,000 business licenses. And so we reach about 1,200 businesses, which is really a small percentage. And so I think we all need to work out because I think there's a lot of people besides our minority community also that are of course not receiving this information. It's just hard. I think the new dollar amount coming out of Congress is like 1.9 trillion. And that's another, I think we need to concentrate on that. Can we get our people back in Washington, DC to allow us to get that money out in a different way? Maybe allow people to have training. I know when we've applied, when a nonprofit like a chamber finally was able to apply, I have a full-time bookkeeper. It was hard for her. I couldn't have done it. And so I don't even know how our small businesses can do it unless they're very sophisticated at times. So it's not real easy to fill out those opportunities, those grants. And so I just can't imagine, maybe we need to press that we need to have people that's what they're there for. I know our unemployment lines are overwhelmed. I know the Colorado Department of Labor was set up to handle about 5,000 calls a day. They get 25,000 a day. So maybe this next round, we could ask for Congress to put some things in there that we could help people through this challenge more than just, if you don't have a full-time bookkeeper, I don't know how the heck you can do it, to be honest with you.
Kevin, you are one of the most influential people in the city of Aurora, and I look forward to working with you. The African Chamber look forward to working with you. Maybe we can do something together.
I appreciate it. Thank you. And Mike too, we're here to help out, but I think it's a massive problem because these small businesses don't have the knowledge to do this. Companies sophisticated struggle with that.
Yeah.
And so if the companies that are sophisticated with bookkeepers and accountants struggle, I can't imagine how our small businesses can do it.
No, and I want to thank sorry. I just wanted to say, I wanted to thank Francis because I know her and her office have done so much, you know, and I wanted to open up the opportunity as well for anybody else that needs to communicate with the Spanish-speaking community. This does not reach everybody, but we do have a daily radio program that we are running in response to what I refer to as the information gap. You know, Francis, I think, was just on 2 weeks ago. You know, we've done a number of different, you know, seminars and webinars and video podcasts, but nevertheless, you know, please, if you have information you want to get out, we do a daily program. It's ran on 4 stations throughout the state. We're looking at adding about 4 more. And that's one way that we've kind of found to help kind of close the information gap.
Can I just add something here? First, I want to thank Dr. Newton for bringing up the point, and then also to Representative Ricks for hosting this session. And we have had these conversations amongst the three of us and in our district, and recognize that we absolutely have challenges in communicating in the right way, in the fastest way to our immigrant community, to all of our entrepreneurs across Colorado. But I appreciate the efforts that they have been making to work with us. And we are a very small district office. I have 13 people in my office. We have 665,000 small businesses in Colorado. So we do our best to kind of stretch our services. But in the interim, since the time that we did have a conversation with the African Chamber, we have been able to secure 2 or 3 consultants across the state from the SBDC network that are willing to dedicate their time specifically to members of this chamber. So we're trying to work to put together that partnership so that they do have go-to people that are dedicated to them. And we're trying to kind of establish this as a pilot program so that we can work with other chambers with some of the same challenges and getting into communities that are underserved. So I'm hopeful that in the next week or so, we can make more steps towards making that happen with the African Chamber for sure, because if it works, I would see it as a best practice. We do have this network. We do have a lot of collaborations of technical assistance partners throughout the state of Colorado that quite frankly are all tripping over each other to help entrepreneurs. We just need to make sure that everyone has equal access to it. And from our perspective, if my 13 people need to spend time, and David's one of them and he can attest to this, dedicating extra time to sitting down with a round table of whatever entrepreneurs you want to put in front of us and going line by line through applications, we're willing to do that, but time is of essence. So we would love your help in kind of making that happen. I can dedicate that time and that resource and bring our partners. And if you can help us bring the clients to the table, we can make this happen.
And I was going to also offer tomorrow, again, the Arapahoe County, the Small Business Relief Grant is going to reopen. So I would like to offer to go, Mike, or to Dr. Newton, to talk to the communities that you would like me to get in front of to help make sure that this message gets out, because this money is intended for them. So, and I want to make sure that it gets to them. So please reach out, or I'll reach out to you with that offer and make sure that we get the word out. So
Thank you, Stephanie.
And the SBDC, that's what we do. We have been walking line by line with clients that have needed that. The city of Aurora has wonderful translation opportunities if we need that as well. And so keep us in mind. If time is of the essence, a group would be better than one-on-one, but we'll do it whatever way is necessary. And we have 2 bilingual Spanish on our staff, native Spanish speaking. So that's helpful for that community.
Thank
I
you.
want to thank all of our panelists. We have a couple more questions in the audience. I think there was a comment that Keith, who is one of the audience member, wanted to make. And then I'm going to open up for a couple quick questions. But more importantly, before we leave here, I want everyone to have phone numbers for the Arapahoe County, the Aurora SBDC, for Francis, and also I think it's David from her group. We want to make sure that people have a phone number that they can reach out to people to get these resources. That's the key. Keith, are you there? Can you hear me?
Let me, Keith, I've given you a permission to talk on the Zoom. I've clicked it. Are you able to?
You just need to unmute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. No, I think that it was a very diverse and robust conversation. As I listened to the conversation, obviously I think about the African-American community. The truth of the matter is, on the flip side of that coin, some of the outreach that I've done to small business owners in the African-American community, for whatever reason, they're not showing up. And so that's part of the battle, because a lot of times, when we're talking to governmental agencies and organizations that are involved with capacity development, they're there, but they can't walk. What the general idea that I'm getting is that we can't bring them to, we can't call them and outreach everywhere. So I think the gap exists at the block level and the neighborhood level to the municipal level. And you need transaction agents. I heard a media platform that speaks to the information gap. And those are some of the things that I like to see come out of the African-American community as well. But I think also we keep in mind that we're all in this together. It's a very huge, diverse pool, and we have to figure out how to get the information in a more synergistic way. And I think that if anybody's open to having some conversation about community voice, which is based on informed and uninformed and misinformed, in community, business, and policy. And we really focus, try to have a balance between engagement of civic engagement and how that leads to some of the economic opportunities just based on provided services. So I just want to say thank you for Laquita for having this discussion, and everybody who's contributed with their voice. It was very informative, and we just need to make sure that if this recording is going to be on Facebook, everybody does put a little bit of time, maybe 5 minutes, and sharing and reposting. That will get the word out a little bit quicker.
Thank you, Keith, for your comments. Any other questions? I see.
Tulu has a question.
Oh, Tulu, are you still there?
He can hear us, but we can't hear him. But
yeah,
he was saying that
she's giving him permission, and so he should be able to ask. There you are, Tulu. We see you. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Thanks for inviting me all. So can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay. I don't see myself, so that's why I was like weird. Thanks, Nakta, and then thanks to all for inviting me. Nakta, I've known you for over since CU Denver, and Dr. Malcolm also. So it is a great discussion that I didn't know even like we have a service like this people who can support us with this. Yeah, my concern, like from my that Dr. Malcolm said that I don't know why, with the SBA or with the PP, I have done even the first time, but I haven't gotten it. I don't know, as we discussed yesterday. So I am here in business to introduce myself. First of all, over 10 years with grocery store. With the Corona, also I have been open new business in Denver by Green Valley Ranch by airport last year, which we're doing good. Here also we are doing good. We give we are on the line for 7 days, working here for and then service in our community every day. So, but I don't know why, I couldn't, I'm working with the Key Bank. They haven't given me any reason that they declined my PP loan, the other one also for the SBA loan, which I applied for it last year. They haven't get back to me. I was talking to them every time now and then. I don't know. So now, since I have someone that I contact from here, I will do so. Thanks so much for it.
Thank you, Tulu. So Tulu is a small business owner. He has a really robust grocery store that contributes a lot of tax dollars to the city of Aurora and the state of Colorado. And I guess based on what he's saying is he applied for a PPP loan, but was unable to get it. He said he was approved, but he never actually got the funds. So maybe, Francis, is that something that you guys can help him with? That would be really great to help him sort that out. So we'll be sure.
For anybody who's stuck, if they'll just send an email to colorado.do@sba.gov, this is what I need. I need your business name, I need your name, and I need your EIN. Don't send any other privacy information like social securities or anything like that. Send that to me and your contact information. And what we'll do is we'll call you back and we'll try to research in any way we can through our systems to figure out where you're stuck. And then what we try to do is help you push through that from the district level. We're happy to do that for anybody who's stuck.
Thank you.
Okay.
One of the issues, if I may jump in, one of the issues, Francis, is that we can't reach nobody on the phone. I've called today so many times to reach David, and I just can't reach David. I don't know what department he's in. I don't know how to reach him with all these different automated lines going on. That's a big problem with the phone issue. We don't know the departments. Call SBA, but what department do we call so we can get through to somebody?
Yeah, unfortunately now during the pandemic, we do have one of those really antiquated phone systems, and we're not sitting in our offices, we're still teleworking. That's why I say the absolute best way to do it right now is just send an email to that email box. We look at it every hour. The minute it comes through, we assign it to a human and a human contacts that person.
Okay.
For humans.
And our state agencies they're like frontline workers now, our unemployment line workers. I don't know if you saw today how many fraudulent unemployment claims for Colorado, over 400,000 fraudulent unemployment claims. And so these departments it's no excuse to a degree, but they're absolutely overwhelmed. And so hopefully this next stimulus money coming in from Congress, almost $2 trillion, can be directed that. I think somebody had a question in the chat about, can some of that money be directed for help on getting this money out and directed? And so that'll be a good question. I just know what $1 trillion is and nobody else does. I've asked this question 100 times. Does anybody know how long it'll take for you to count to 1 trillion? How many years? Think of the most astronomical number you can think of. Nobody even comes close to count.
Donald Trump can count it. Donald Trump knows how to count it.
Well, he's gone, thank goodness. But no, it takes 31,000 years to count to 1 trillion. So that's a lot of money out there, and we've got to direct it to the right places. So,
and Kevin, that's the frustration. Thank you. I mean, that's the key. It's like there's all this money that comes out from the state, from the federal government, but if we don't get it into the communities and into the hands of the small businesses that need it, then it's just there. They're still out here with the same problems. Someone is saying that they spent about 5 days trying to get through PPP, EIDL, trying to get some other funding, and it's just really frustrating. Candace, please send me some. Okay, so I see Francis is responding. So is there anybody else out there? Any other questions in the chat? We're gonna wrap it up. We were supposed to end at 5:30, but I think there was one final question. Please put all your information in the chat, and then we will make sure to put this information out on Facebook and on our social media to make sure that everybody gets it. And if you have any final thoughts or questions, you can put that in the chat as we wrap up. But I want to really thank all of our panelists, Kevin Hougen, Francis Padilla, Dr. Malcolm Newton, David Benavides, Marcia Mcgilly, Mike Ferrufino, Stephanie Mufik, everyone for coming today. We can't do this work without you, and I appreciate the work that you guys, you have your hearts in the right place. You want to get this information out, you want to get the resources out, and we're here to work with you to make sure that small businesses are getting supported and getting help, because it's so important that they make it through this pandemic. We know we have high unemployment, so all that does is, if these businesses fail, there's nowhere for them to go. I mean, they're in the unemployment line. That's not what we want. We want to create jobs, and we want to continue to make sure that our small businesses are thriving. Because when you spend money with small businesses, the money is spent locally. It's not like the big corporations that take the money out of here. So it's so important that we get this important segment of our community back on the recovery track. So thank you all for being here. And like Kevin said, please spend locally. Eat out. Our restaurants have gone through the shutdowns and because of COVID. And also, if people have the opportunity to get vaccinated, there's been a lot of vaccine hesitancy. So I'm going to kind of put a plug in for that. Please, we need to get vaccinated. I am doing like a pop-up clinic on Saturday, this Saturday at St. Mary's Orthodox Church, and trying to get elderly people 65 and older or essential workers vaccinated. And this vaccination will continue probably up until people say up to 2 years from now, but we're trying to get people vaccinated sooner than later. So if you have a chance to get the vaccine, please do. It helps us to get back into a place where we can commute every day, we can visit each other, we can sit in restaurants, we can engage like we used to pre-pandemic. So
can you talk about the 2 clinics? Can you talk about the 2 clinics you're setting up?
Yeah, so the pop-up clinic will be this Saturday at St. Mary's Orthodox Church. It will be from 10 till 2 p.m. St. Mary's is at 16250 East Colfax Avenue in Aurora. And from 10 to 2, we've been setting up, we started out at 100 people, went from 100 to 200, from 200 now we are at 280 last count. So we're gonna cap that off. The next clinic will be held in Senate District 28 and House District 40. Senator Buckner and I are partnering on a pop-up clinic that will happen on February 27th. So for those people who got on the list but may not be able to make it because we run out of vaccines, we'll roll them over to this new list. But if you know of any elderly people there, we'll be posting that information on Facebook very shortly. It will be at the Trinity Baptist Church, which is located off of Chambers and Quincy Avenue in our district. So we'll get more information that will be forthcoming. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We appreciate all that you guys do, and let's keep talking. You know, I'm glad that people are open, but the more we know, the better we can be on distributing funds to community, and that's the key, is to get it into the business hands. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, I don't see anything.
Thank you, Representative.
All right, thank you all for coming. We appreciate you so much. We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.